Wanna talk? So let's talk. Yeah. Talk. You wanna talk? You gotta talk, you need to talk. News talk.
I talk, you talk to Solomon. I talk, you talk to Solomon. Yeah, let's talk to Solomon. Talk to Solomon.
You gotta talk.
Good evening, America. Welcome to Talk to Solomon. Thank you for joining us. My name is Stan Solomon. I'm the host.
I'm Chief Steve Davis, the co-host.
And also co-hosting with us today is Greg W. Howard from the great state of Alabama. Greg, are you with us?
I am.
And our guest of honor, Dr. Alan Keyes. Alan, good evening.
Good evening, Stan. How are you?
I am fine, but like all Americans, reeling at the evil that was perpetrated against 20 children and 8 adults, actually 7 adults, one of the adults being the shooter. And we've been talking about this all evening, as has most of America. We see our government, in the form of our president, trying to take this tragedy, twist it to accomplish his objective of enslaving everyone by disarming them. We see people posturing, people retreating, people cowering, and we see facts coming out, and there's much to discuss. I started this evening with the discussion about a study that came out of Denmark that shows that 1 in every 6 abortions, the child is actually born but then dies shortly thereafter. Some, of course, we know survive, a relatively small number. And, of course, I did what we're not supposed to do, what the left abhors, and that's saying we are upset, and rightly so, that 20 children were murdered. Were murdered for nothing, for no reason, for nothing they did, for nothing that's their fault, for nothing they had anything to do with. And yet, thousands, 3,200, 3,300 every day in this country, 30,000 or so, or 20,000 every day throughout the world, equally innocent, or even more innocent if that's possible, babies are murdered. And most of the world doesn't care, much less notice. I'll turn to you, Dr. Keyes.
Well, I think what you're pointing out, Stan, I actually wrote a column, which I put up yesterday on my blog, because I'd seen a show on Fox News on the Friday, last week, and a couple of guests had been invited on in a religious segment on religious issues. They were supposed to talk about something else, but of course the terrible events in Connecticut were preoccupying everyone. And the producers of the segment chose to put it under the heading, "Why Does God Allow Evil?" Right? And I was impressed, actually, with the guests, because in a polite sort of way, they made it clear that they thought that, given that we were in a circumstance where so many, especially of the people directly affected, were very likely to be turning to God for strength and for support in enduring the terrible wound and affliction that they were suffering, it hardly seemed like a time to be questioning God's bona fides. And one had to suspect that, as is often the case these days in our elitist mainstream media, there was an underlying premise aimed at raising questions about God. And I was struck, Stan, by the fact that nothing that happens anymore escapes the anti-God agenda. Nothing can take place, but folks in our society want to somehow or another use it in order to undermine, denigrate, somehow call into question the authority, the goodness, the graciousness of God. And yet, how can we not see in the events that transpired in Connecticut an outbreak of the incredible unleashing of evil that has been taking place in our society for what, at least the last several decades. And when you think about it, and I ended my column on the very note that you used just now, I see somebody like Barack Obama crying his crocodile tears. I'm sorry, that's what they were. Alan, why would you say that? Surely you won't deny that Barack Obama grieved for these children. Yes, I will. I don't believe in Barack Obama's grief for children. If he had any grief for children, he wouldn't be the advocate and champion, the high priest of the culture of death, standing in Illinois when he was in the U.S. Senate to do what? In the Illinois Senate, rather, to champion the idea that fully born babies who had been the subject of an abortion, where the mother decided, I want an abortion, but the child was born alive, right? He said that they should be put aside and allowed to die. And took that stand so adamantly that until he was no longer in charge of the subcommittee that was looking at this, they couldn't get the bill through, as I recall. And this is the kind of individual who now wants us to believe he's all broken up because terrible evil has claimed the lives of innocent children. Terrible evil is claiming the lives of innocent children every single day. And what's, I think, also deeply significant, that kind of approach to the innocent lives is hardening the heart of America. So you pretend to appreciate the grief of parents, and yet you are part of a movement, the leader, in fact, worldwide of a movement that has as its chief effect the hardening of parents' hearts so that they don't regard the child as a gift from God. They regard the child, as he once said himself, as a punishment for the woman. And they regard abortion as a reprieve and a relief from this punishment. I think those attitudes, as you suggest, Dan, we really need to think this through. Not start letting these same vilely wicked people try to persuade us that the way you defend innocent life is by taking the means of defense out of the hands of people of decent conscience so that it will only remain in the hands of those who have devilish intent. I think in one way or another, that agenda that they are now championing, that Obama and his ilk are now championing, that agenda is of a piece with their pro-abortion agenda. Because basically, that assault on innocent life takes place in the womb through the arming of the will of a society to tolerate the murder of innocent children, and throughout the society, including our classrooms, through the disarming of conscience and decent people who would otherwise be positioned to oppose and end such massacres before they became massacres.
Well said. Let's get Greg's comment.
I only want to add on to what Dr. Keyes said, because I have a hearty amen to that. What we have seen in this country is a dehumanization, and it has been very much along the lines of the dehumanization we saw under the Hitler regime. If you'll recall your history, they dehumanized the Jews and anyone else they did not want or that they saw as undesirable by posters where the Jews were, if they were depicted as human, they were depicted with rat-like features. And if they were not depicted as human, they were depicted as pigs and dogs. And this same dehumanization has occurred with the unborn in this country. It is not a person. It is a fetus or an embryo. I don't ever recall my wife ever coming up to me and saying, honey, can you feel the fetus move? It was always, can you feel the baby move? And no one ever talks, no pregnant woman ever talks to anyone and says, oh, I can't wait till the fetus is born. They always talk about the baby being born, but in all the media in this country, the word is fetus, fetus, fetus. Now, this dehumanization goes back to the Sanger days when the word undesirable was being used, when she talked about the Negro problem and the people and the problem with charity being that it was creating too many of the type of people we would rather not have. And the dehumanization began there through the American eugenics movement, which was picked up by Hitler's eugenics movement, and it continues to this day. And now we're starting to see the same dehumanization take place towards anyone that is disagreed with. We're not people who are disagreed with. We're teabaggers, or we're racist, or we're scum, or right-wing nut jobs. And now you're seeing the same dehumanization taking place towards old people. You're seeing dehumanization. Watch the road we're going on. We're going to start to see old life being devalued to the same extent that pre-born life is now being devalued completely. And it is a very, very dangerous slope where we're going to find ourselves where life has only the value that is convenient to the government or convenient to the people in power, and that is a very dangerous spot because we were all created in the image of God, and it is in that image that life is precious from its conception to its natural death at the hands of God or at God's own time.
That's very insightful, Greg, and I want to pick up on that, but first we'll go to the Chief.
A couple of days ago, I was in my car listening to a conservative radio talk show host, and he made this comment. He said, hey, all of you social conservatives, I got news for you. You're not going to get anything that you want in the next 20 years. He said, so you better focus on the economics. He said, so the Supreme Court's never going to reverse Roe versus Wade. You're not going to get any of these social issues, the gay marriage, all that's just gone. So, hey, conservative, all you social conservatives, just sit down and shut up. That's exactly what he said on the radio.
And who was this?
It's a fill-in for Laura Ingraham while she's off the radio. Jeff somebody or Jeff Abbott, or I couldn't catch his name really, but I screamed out loud in my car. I'm like, first of all, how dare you tell me what I can and can't believe in and fight for? But then I really thought about that for a while, and I thought, you know, our founding fathers had this right. They did everything, they lived their lives with faith in God and on God's side and with belief in God's laws. And that's how they built this country. It started with God and God's morals, God's values, and God's laws. And that's how they kept and started this whole country. So for anybody to say that we're going to be able to fix the economics with no morals, I think that's just exactly backwards.
Well, now is it backwards? I'm just going to quote you, Dr. Keys. Dr. Keys pointed out that if you can convince people there is no God, then nothing can be a God-given. Nothing can come from God, including right and wrong. And that leads you right where they want you, which is on the precipice to go to hell. Dr. Keys.
Well, sadly, I think what the Chief has just pointed out has been a full court press going on in the last week or so. Before this terrible shooting occurred, George Will, Mary Matlin, all these, I call them Trojan horse conservatives. All these Trojan horses in the conservative cause now are fulfilling their function. For a while, they were content to pretend they were God's gift to conservatism. But now the belly of the beast is opening, and out comes all of this junk aimed at destroying the very heart of what it means to be a conservative in America. And the main point they make, and I hope everyone will mark my words here, is get rid of the God issues. Get rid of all those issues that in the end are connected with the Declaration's acknowledgement of God's authority and God as the source of the standard that defines in human affairs what is right, and that therefore defines what is wrong. And so I think that the Chief has just put his finger on the heart of what's going on. And I have to draw one conclusion from this, Stan. I know it's a conclusion some people are still loath to look at, but with what Boehner's doing, all kinds of things going on, I think what's been going on in the last little while is clear. The Republican so-called conservative establishment, the phony one, the rhinos and the Romney types and all these people who've been lying every which way to try to pretend that they deserve the vote of truly God-fearing grassroots people, they're now hoisting their true colors and making it clear that they intend for there to be no representation in politics for anyone who believes in the Declaration, believes that the concept of right and rights is founded in the acknowledgement of God and His authority, and who therefore looks at issues, all of them, in terms of the logic of that Declaration which acknowledges God. There will be no representation for us. And frankly, where there is no representation, there is no liberty. There is no constitutional government. Because the whole point of government, as Madison and others repeatedly said, was representation. The whole point of the American Revolution was not to get lower taxes. They lie and pretend. Do you realize that the tea tax that was imposed when the Boston Tea Party took place, the rate of taxation was actually lower than it had been? They weren't looking for lower taxes. They got lower taxes, but refused to accept the tea at the lower taxes because it was done in a way that destroyed the principle of representation. So if these people are telling all the moral conservatives, all the people concerned about the family issues, all the people concerned about the pro-life issue, all the people concerned, we must maintain the standard of right that gives the doctrine of rights any meaning whatsoever, which begins that standard with the acknowledgement of God. We're to have no representation. Then it means we're to have no liberty in this country. It means we're to have no self-government. It means we're to live now under a tyranny of those who have abandoned the standard of right in order to worship mammon and promote evil. And I don't think that that's acceptable, Stan. I think it's time for everybody who really puts those things first to get out of the Republican Party, get out of the Democrat Party, and start a party that is once again founded on the principles of the Declaration. It's time for us to say we're going to be represented. And if you won't do it for us, we will do what Americans always do. We will build a vehicle that will do what is required.
Well, we need that. The question is, when will we get that? How will we get that? Who will lead that? Who will participate? Who will back? All the questions, and we're not going to discuss that tonight, but I agree with you. It is time for those people who believe, frankly, in God to understand that neither the Democrats, who are totally godless, nor the Republicans, who are in reality godless, but by words pretend that they are going to be true to those principles that say right and wrong come from God, and that has got to be the basis upon which we do things. Now, there's a guy on CNN, which 7 people watched, 6 of them are blind, and this guy's name is Lemon. That's appropriate. His name is Don Lemon, and he was hired because he looks like Obama. Now, no one will say that, but I'll say it. He's a light-skinned black guy who looks clean, according to Kennedy when he was sober, or was he ever sober? And he has made a statement that is absolutely what this country is all about from the perspective of the left. Ready? It doesn't matter if gun violence is down. My mind is made up. Don't confuse me with the facts. Mm-hmm. That is the issue of our day. Now, start with the chief.
Yes, the gun laws, we talked about gun laws earlier, and so people are talking about we need more gun control, but they neglect to mention the fact that in every single place where gun laws are relaxed, where gun ownership and gun carry is more easily allowed, the crime rate has gone down. And so if we really care about people being safe, if we really care about life, we really care about people being able to protect themselves, we should encourage more gun ownership and more use of guns rather than gun control. But this article you've mentioned, or this story, dramatizes and illustrates that the left doesn't care about people or their lives, they only care about control.
Well said. Greg.
I was living in the Atlanta area at the very time of the very famous Kennesaw, Georgia passage of the mandatory gun ownership law. That was an area that was being terrorized by break-ins and home invasions at a rate that was astronomical. The city voted in an ordinance that if you lived within the city limits, you will buy and own a handgun and keep it in your house. And I believe they also included a shotgun or whatever the case may be. But the aim was that every home in Kennesaw, Georgia would be armed. Immediately, they saw a dramatic drop in property crimes and violent crimes against persons inside the city of Kennesaw, Georgia. Now, we were talking earlier before Alan came on about how many times we find these stories about people defending themselves lawfully with a gun that are only buried in the back pages of the newspaper, or you have to find them only on the local news. You will never find them anywhere prominently listed, but it is repeatedly, and there are dozens of events a month that could easily be pointed to with as much fanfare as any of the events we've been watching over the past week. But going back to what Alan said, and I want to jump on what he said because I am in 100% agreement, it is time that the GOP go the way of the Whigs, or that people in this country who have had it with both of these parties realize that they are both two sides of the same New World Order coin and owned by the same masters as own the Federal Reserve. Get out and move now. We talked about this the last time Alan was on the show and that I was on the show with him, that if you do not think that a third party can be viable in 4 years, you're sadly mistaken. We can make this happen. It is time to make this happen. With today's speed of media, with today's marketing techniques, with today's websites and blogging and all the other things at our disposal, the only thing we're lacking, and we have to be careful where we get it from, is money and the people to work it. But we can build this from the grassroots. We've got our own grassroots effort right now in fighting against the liberal media with the OpSlam effort, and you have to see this thing in action on Twitter. It is growing exponentially. It is driving the liberals crazy. People are coming in, they're donating the money for a domain. People are coming in and donating their website skills. And this just has a very limited plan of taking on just a couple of liberal news networks like MSNBC. Imagine if people were to sell out to the idea of actually taking on these two corrupt and should-be defunct parties and getting them out of the way so that we can once again look at Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution and use that as a checklist by which we start dismantling this multi-7,000-headed hydra that we call a government and get back to actually having freedom in this country. It would be amazing what we could do. But we have got to get people to stop thinking that their salvation is going to come from a political party. I'm reading the tweets right now. Just wait till 2014. 2014, we said wait till 2010. What did we get? Wait till 2012. What did we get? Boehner is selling us out even as we speak.
Right.
Alan?
Well, I want to say two things. First, this whole idea of gun control, we've talked about this before, Stan, is a species of insanity when it's not connected to its real objective. Because what's really going on with all these left-wing types and all these sort of phony, totalitarian-minded rhinos and all these people who worship government and all that, you know what's really going on? What is really going on is the disarming of the American people. That's the objective. One of the key reasons that self-government eventually was established in the United States was that in England, in particular, as a part of the heritage of the people who started this country, there had been a period when ordinary folks came out of the feudal mentality that saw arms and military things as the business of the nobility, with everybody else as just their cannon fodder, and started to organize, as Cromwell did with the new model army, around the premise that decent ordinary folks could take up arms in defense of themselves and their conscience. And of course, that becomes the idea of self-government based upon self-discipline that then is exemplified by an ability to organize in order to defend hearth and home and community and rights. And that was the spirit in which America was founded. So obviously, gun control flies in the face of all of that because you've got to be prepared to defend yourself. You've got to be unafraid. And you especially have to be unafraid of the instruments of your self-defense. But here's the clue. We don't need more gun control. What we need is more people of decent conscience and responsibility who are properly oriented and trained for the control of guns, especially in situations where wicked folks are mowing down the innocent. Wicked people who could be stopped like that the minute they were challenged by one or two people. They wouldn't be preoccupied anymore with killing innocent people. They'd be preoccupied with not getting shot dead themselves. And in situation after situation, the death toll has been limited in just that way, where there was, by God's grace, a person of decent conscience and some capacity who challenged one of these wicked people in this situation. So that's what we need. But then here's the rub. That proviso about the decent conscience, do you think it's just a coincidence, Stan, that over the course of the last several decades, there's been a systematic assault, not just on the different ideas of what's right and wrong in this way or that. There's been an assault on the idea of conscience itself. Moral relativism is an assault on conscience, assault on the idea that there is some kind of steady, persistent, common sense difference between right and wrong. They try to break down conscience so that people feel timid. I don't get to judge. I can't judge. I can't do this. And that timidity translates into an unwillingness in situations of manifest evil to take responsibility for the fight against that evil. And this is where we've come to. So we not only need to emphasize the fact that the gun control agenda is insane when it's not simply a means of enslaving our people, but we also need to concentrate on the fact that the key to thwarting it is going to be a moral revolution. That is, a return to the understanding of conscience and the corresponding understanding of responsibility at the individual level that corresponds to it. Final point. I think there's a parallel here. Just as I believe that by distributing, not by forbidding, but by distributing among the decent populace, the moral discipline and access to the means of self-defense, you will poison the water against this wickedness, as happened in Kennesaw. And the bad guys will say, nope, that's a poison pond. We got to get out of there. You can also lift this economy up by taking the same approach to our money. Just as we need to thwart the agenda of government gun control, we need to thwart the agenda of government money control. And just as we need to get to the point where that means of self-defense is in the hands of responsible people throughout our population, we need also to get to the point where the control of our dollars is back in the hands of individual citizens and families and businesses and out of the hands of these little corporate cliquish, government cliquish parties that are now destroying us in order to rape and pillage the income and good faith and credit of the American people. So I think it's quite clear in both these areas. We don't need more government control. We need more people of self-control in control of their own resources and the means to defend them.
And their government. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back with Dr. Alan Keyes, Greg W. Howard, Chief Steve Davis, and me, Stan Solomon, here on Talk to Solomon. Hey, my name is Stan Solomon, and you know if I have something to say, I'll say it. And I'll only tell you the truth because I'm a Republican, not a Democrat. Democrats always lie. Republicans only lie half the time. I don't lie at all. This is the fuel mule. It's an extraordinary product that was developed by a friend of mine, an engineer, and it increases the fuel mileage on your vehicle. If you have a combustion engine, this will increase your mileage by 10 to 20%. It bolts around your fuel line. You can install it yourself or have your mechanic do it. It is an extraordinary item, and it flat works. I've been using it for more than 10 years. It's increased my mileage on every vehicle I put it on, and by the way, it will last forever. You can get rid of your vehicle, just take it off and put it on the next one. Go to cpnlive.com. You'll have more information there. You can order it right there. We absolutely guarantee you'll be satisfied. The Fuel Mule. It's a way to kick down your cost of fuel and kick up your mileage. Don't you love the name? I thought of it. The Fuel Mule. I like to eat. Do you like to eat? We all do. And usually we run to the grocery store, we run to the convenience store, or we have something in the fridge. But power's been out in parts of this country in the last few weeks. We don't know what's going to come down the pike economically. Smart people are putting in food. Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves is a line of foods that you can put away that will last for a very long time. You know, they say eat what you store and store what you eat. This is great tasting stuff, healthy for you, a full line. You go to our website, cpnlive.com, and click on the button for Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves and see all the different things we have. This is good tasting food. It's reasonably priced. It will last. And it's worth its weight in gold if a problem arises. I know you don't think there's going to be anything that goes wrong. Actually, you do. This is smart. This is smart insurance. This is smart preparation. This is smart thinking. You have kids, you have a spouse, you have parents, you have dependents, you have an appetite. All those things can be addressed by a frugal but smart investment in Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves. Try them out. You will be tickled to death with the taste of them. You know what? In many cases, people start to eat this and they think, heck, this tastes better and costs less than what you're going to the grocery store to buy. cpnlive.com, check it out. Let me ask you a question. Do you like being sick? I have in my hand an incredible product. It's called TR10 Supercolloidal Silver. TR10 stands for a trace to the negative 10th power. The particles in this silver product are 6 to 8 angstroms, 6 to 8 10 billionths of a meter. Now listen to me. Silver has been the magic bullet for all of human existence. The Egyptians used silver instruments. We use silverware. They put silver in your teeth because nothing can grow on silver. Silver will kill anything but liberalism. I'm working on that. This product, you go to cpnlive.com, buy 1 quart of this product. It will last you for a very long time. Anytime you feel like you've been exposed to something bad, take some of this product, spray it in your mouth, or take a little bit and gargle it, swallow it. It will kill any pathogen. The average antibiotic kills 10 to 20 different pathogens. This product will kill 700 plus. Do yourself a favor, do your family a favor, do your doctor a favor. He's tired of seeing you. Get Supercolloidal Silver. Go to cpnlive.com, order the product. It's $29.95 plus shipping. I think it's $39.95 delivered any place in America right to your door. It's worth 10 times that. Check it out. If you're not 100% happy, just return it and we'll give you your money back. Do you like being healthy? I do. In fact, this product, which I've been taking for years now, is absolutely the answer. Now, you may not believe it, but I'm actually 21, plus tax, of course. This product has 146 different healthful nutrients in it, and it's liquid, so it's bioavailable. It tastes great, and it's sugar-free. 1 ounce of Sonic Life each day will help you to maintain and enhance your health. It's the kind of a gift, well, that you'll thank your mom for, your husband for, your wife for, your kids for. Whoever you give it to, they're going to say thank you, and you are going to enjoy the benefits of having all the vitamins, all the minerals, all the nutrients your body needs in one very reasonably priced product. Just go to cpnlive.com and everything's right there. You'll be able to read all the ingredients. The price is right there, a flat price delivered to your door anywhere in the United States of America. Sonic Life is a gift, a great gift. Give it to yourself. I do.